Good evening and welcome to the Royal Torbay Yacht Club. My name's Adrian Peach. I used to be Commodore here a few years ago, but I'm responsible for putting this on tonight, so I hope you enjoy yourselves. A couple of house rules: if the fire alarm goes off and you have to evacuate, get down the stairs, and opposite, get out as quick as you can, basically. Secondly, for those people that have never been in here before, the gents' toilets are just outside the door here on the right-hand side, and the ladies' toilets are straight through and then right. Okay, so just a few house rules. So how I come to be stood here tonight is about 6 weeks ago, a mate of mine said, come down to my boat and meet this guy, Gordon Scott. He's a Torbay parliamentary candidate for a Reform Party, and I didn't really know a lot about it, so okay, I'll come down and have a little chat. So there was just the four of us on the boat, and I thought, I had a chat with Gordon, and I thought, what a lovely bloke. I thought he's got some really good values and really came across well. So then I went away and I thought, I'll go and have a look at what Reform have got to say. So I had to dig around and I read their little manifesto or draft manifesto, and I liked what they had written, and I thought, there's a lot of common sense in what they say. So the next couple of weeks' time, I met Gordon again, and there was a few more people on the boat, and we had another little chat. And I said to Gordon, maybe we could do something a bit bigger. You know, there's only 7 of us here tonight. Maybe we'll put something together at the Yacht Club and we'll get maybe 30 or 40 people come along. So I contacted the Yacht Club, who are non-political at all, I have to add that bit. And I asked them if we could hire the room tonight for this. And I thought we'd get 30 or 40 people, but actually we're sold out. We've got 100 people in here tonight, which is fantastic. Which gives way to the mood, doesn't it? Which kind of gives way to the mood, how we all feel a little bit about government at the moment. I mean, from my perspective and what I thought about it, you know, why I was feeling a little bit disappointed was I felt that in order to form a functioning democracy, you kind of need a strong opposition party at minimum. So back in my day, there was always the left and the right, and so people knew they either drove on the left-hand side of the road or the right-hand side of the road. And so if the Conservatives were in power, it would be right, and it would be the job of the left, who would be a strong opposition to keep them in check. And the same the other way around, when Labour were in, we'd have a strong opposition in the Conservatives, and they would keep Labour in check. But now, I'm just fearful because I think both parties just drive straight up the middle of the road, and there's no difference between them. So I'm really hoping that, at minimum, we can elect a load of MPs and be a strong opposition for reform. Failing that, actually, what I'd really like is a reform government, wouldn't we all? So that's enough about me. So I'm just going to introduce you now. I'm sure a lot of you have met Gordon before, but can I welcome him to the front of the stage, please, Mr. Gordon Scott.
Thank you, Adrian, and thank you for this wonderful opportunity here tonight in the wonderful Royal Torbay Yacht Club. I've only been here once before, which was on Monday. I thought I would say that I'd been here before because as a yachtsman you tend to get around yacht clubs, but I'm not that kind of yachtsman. So, anyhow, this evening is about presenting to you and telling you who Reform are, who I am, and what Reform are going to do, and how we're going to do it. So hopefully, by the end of the evening, you should have a good idea of everything that we stand for. And I've put it all on a nice slide deck as well, which is a step up from some of my previous presentations. So it's obviously great to welcome you all here tonight. I just want to step into why I'm standing. So this is what we're talking about, as I've just said, and why I'm standing. So we're just in this situation right now where the government is completely and utterly non-functional. Yeah? Okay. So it's completely non-functional. It's just not doing what it's meant to be doing. It's got kind of ridiculous. And it's got to a stage where the people, all of us, and all of the other people around the country have got fed up. Because our politicians are meant to represent us. They're meant to go up into Parliament and they're meant to represent us to the government. But they have become something different. They've become salesmen for the government to us. So the whole thing's turned upside down. And the Reform Party, as a new party, is set up to bring proper representation back to the people of the United Kingdom, because we need it. Because the other three parties, the Liberal Democrats, Labour and Conservative, they don't do that anymore. They are political salesmen. They are selling what the government is offering, not what we want. We've had manifesto after manifesto after manifesto saying, we will do this, we will do that, and they get into government and they do something completely different. So, for me, personally, it's got to the point where I've got a little family, you've probably met them this evening, and I want the best for my little family. And the future that I'm seeing, if we continue down the route that we're going, is one that I don't want my son and daughter living in. I want to create a better future for them. I want to give them an inheritance that is worthy of them, because they're beautiful and we've all got children and we've brought them up, and we cannot present to them something that is worse than we had as we're when we were children. So I hope that you'll agree with me this evening that is a key aim for the Reform Party and for the people as a whole of this country. Because this country is great, and it's been a beacon of light in this world over the course of history. It represents freedom to the world. I've done a lot of travelling around the world, and when you go to different countries, they may say one thing or other about the Brits, but what they will say is that the British people were free, but we're not anymore. You know, the thing that made us free has been taken away. We need to grab it back. And that starts here by proper democratic representation in government. And so we need to remove the Liberal Democrats, Labour and Conservatives from the constant merry-go-round, and where we don't receive any representation whatsoever. So I've put up here mismanagement. We've talked a little bit about that. Poor representation. The blob. People name this many different things. The technocracy. The civil servants. So they're the people who the government are selling to us. You know, it's their agenda that gets rolled out, each and every government, and they're the people that we actually truly need to defeat if we're going to get any real change for this country. And when we talk about the blob, they're not just here, they're abroad as well. And we see several of our governmental agendas coming from abroad into here. I mean, we've got the European Union's the obvious one, but we've supposedly left. I don't think we have at all. But there are other international organisations which our politicians are then selling to us. We don't need that. You know, we know what's best for us. We need self-determination. We need freedom again. And the last one I've written here is no belief. That no belief refers to us. Too many people that I speak to on a daily basis are completely and utterly demoralised. And they say, how are you going to do that? Because for 20 years, we've had the same thing. We've had the naysayers and the negatives in our media saying, you can't do that. Well, that's got to stop. You know, the media as it is now, in terms of trusting the media, is at an absolute all-time low. Do you trust the media? I don't. I don't trust anything that they say. So we need to get rid of that no belief. because we truly can do this, because every single person in this room knows that there's a problem. We've got to believe that we can make it right. The people up there who are organising and sorting out this place, they are small in comparison to us. And so when we get out there and we exercise our democratic right and we vote at some point this year, we've got to make sure we vote for change. And we've got to believe that we can change it. So let's move to the next one. What's wrong continued. So our political class, they live up in Westminster. Lots of them, they spend their entire lives there. They don't see you and I. They don't come and meet us on the streets. They don't know the normal man's problems. They just speak to their peer group who've gone through the same schools, same universities, and their worldview is just, it's blinkered. They think maybe because they've gone on a trip to Brussels or something like that, that they've travelled internationally and seen culture. Nonsense. So what we need to do, and what Reform is going to do, is going to put real people up in Parliament. So the people representing Reform are normal people from around the shires, around the United Kingdom, who've done normal jobs, whichever it may be. They've got real life experience. They are not career politicians. And we're going to shake it up. Because when old, whoever it is, Rishi says something and his mates go, oh, yeah, we're going to go, no, it's not like that. My mate round the corner doesn't think like that. Why are you pushing that? Explain yourself. So we need that conversation up in government again. So right now, we need to take some responsibility for this, because at the end of the day, this is our country, and we actively need to get it back. They're not going to give it back to us. So we need to get round behind worthy causes in our communities, and we've got to stop doing the same, which is voting for the same failure, for the Liberal Democrats, the Conservatives, the Labour Party, who, as Adrian said, it's just a merry-go-round. They're going straight down the middle. They are doing exactly the same thing. So Reform, well, we're here to listen. I want to hear from each person what affects them, and I really want to get out there and meet more of you. I've done my utmost over the year to meet as many people as possible, and there's many people in this room who I have spoken to and sat down to. So we want to get out there and listen. We want to hear the problems that you have. And it is amazing how similar the problems are from each person to each person. And we need to then take that, and we need to be that voice in government. So Reform will be proper representation, and we will be giving you a voice in government again. And that's not just for the campaigning period. A lot of our politicians, they campaign, they tell you certain things, and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. No, we need to continue this throughout a 5-year parliament. Right, that's the aim. We need to take our country back. We need to come together for the good of this country, and we need to exercise our democratic rights later this year. Okay, so what are we going to do when we get there? Because obviously this is what you're going to be voting for. So many of you are already members of Reform, and many of you have probably seen this circulated around. This is our contract. It was published a couple of months ago at our, maybe only 6 weeks ago at our spring conference. I've put a big QR code up there because if you hadn't seen it, you can take that on your phone and it will bring it up for you. It's 32 pages of what we're going to do. However, I've broken it down into some useful sound bites for this evening. Obviously, I can't go through the whole thing. So, starting with, I've picked some important parts. We're going to take back control of our borders. We're going to make our streets safe. We're going to invest in you and not the bureaucracy. We're going to make healthcare great, again, hopefully. We're going to deliver Brexit. Brexit means Brexit. Let's finish the job. We're going to put British families first in housing, and we're going to unleash the power of local businesses and end the war on British drivers. So those are just a few that I've picked out, and we'll talk about them. But obviously, I'd love you to take away the contract and go and read it in full, because there's a lot more information in there. So in terms of our borders, we need to stop the channel crossings, obviously. We've got a 6-point plan for that. We're going to freeze overall immigration. We're going to look into the nonsense that are student visas, where someone who's supposedly coming for studying brings several dependents with them. And there are lots of rule breakers, especially within industry, who bring in or employ people who are not haven't got the right documentation to be here. So that's a quick overview there. I'm sure that everyone's interested in lots more detail there, and there is, but we'll just move on quickly this evening. Make our streets safe. So out and about in Torbay and speaking to the people around Torbay, and indeed the wider country, it is very obvious that the police are, well, they're underfunded. We lost 20,000 police officers under Theresa May, and our communities are looking poor because of it. So reform, part of our manifesto, 40,000 more bobbies on the beat. And we're going to introduce cutting edge technology to ensure that the back office administrative stuff doesn't impinge on people getting out there, and we're going to get tough on crime, so sentencing, increasing prison places, and we're going to focus on real crime, not administrative nonsense, really, that's jamming up our justice system. We're going to invest in you and not in the bureaucracy. We're going to simplify funding. A lot of the conversations I have with people are, where is our money going? We've got fantastic amounts or levels of tax at the minute, yet we don't see much for it. So we're going to simplify the funding structures throughout our communities, cut the red tape, and make sure that our money gets where it needs to be. Healthcare. We've got some fantastic, really, really fantastic doctors and nurses in this country who have put in a real shift over the last few years. And they do need to be looked after. I've spoken to lots of them. They're kind of demoralised. And we're seeing it. People are leaving the health service. People who've devoted their lives, they get to 40, 45, 50, and they're like, well, I'm going to go and do something else now. This really isn't as rewarding as it should be. We want to stop that, because our healthcare is vital to our future, and we need to look after these people who have put in the hard hours, and they have the knowledge and the skills. We don't want to lose the experience that they have. So we're going to reform, are going to address the current crisis that we have in terms of healthcare workers, and we're going to take them out of the tax, paying basic rate tax for 3 years. And the main reason is we need to get those doctors and nurses who have left the service back into the service again, and for 2 reasons. One, that they're the best doctors and nurses we have, but secondly, they need to then pass on their knowledge to the younger generation who are coming through the health service. We also want to make sure that those new people coming into the health service are fully looked after. So we're going to increase the numbers that are being trained, and we're going to make sure that they don't pay for that training. However, we will do it with a commitment that they must serve 10 years within our health service. So they'll get a student loan. If they stay for 10 years, student loan will be written off. And the biggest bugbear of every healthcare professional I come into contact with is management. Unfortunately, there's been a couple of other layers of management added in the last couple of years, but we need to really make sure that that the money that we put towards our health service gets to the front line. And we don't need management. There are fantastic people in our doctors and nurses who are well able to look at, to organise themselves with a couple of people in the background, not teams and teams of people just getting it in a mess, really. Brexit means Brexit. I don't know about you, but I do not believe we've had any form of Brexit really whatsoever. It's proper Brino, as they were going, or Brino, Brexit in name only. So that is currently the Windsor Framework, so we will scrap that. We will leave the European Convention on Human Rights, because if your laws are still governed by a foreign court, then they're not your laws. You don't have any sovereignty whatsoever. And we need to stand up to those global elites who are standing against that, because we can't really beat about the bush here. There are forces behind the scenes that seem to be engaged in trying to stop us leaving. And we need to stand up, and we just need to say no. Once we've finally done that, we can put our interests first and do what's best for us. And it's an overarching thing, because a lot of the things that we talk about this evening, and the reason why they don't occur, is because of this. Because there's a legislative agenda that is being set from a foreign land. And it's being rolled out across Europe and in fact globally, and we have no say in it. So this is absolutely crucial, because without this you cannot implement anything. So Reform, I believe, is the only party that has a really good plan for the small businesses, small and medium-sized businesses in the UK and in the locality in Torbay. So we're going to cut those taxes for the local businesses, and how that's going to come across, we're going to have a profit threshold. So the first £100,000 profit for a business will be free of corporation tax, and we will also reduce corporation tax to 20%. And we will aim by the end of a 5-year parliament to have that corporation tax at 15%, which is fantastic. Also, business rates in our high street. Our high street does suffer from competition with online retail. So we're going to abolish business rates for our retail stores on the high street, and we need to get people back on them. We are going to get rid of our IR35 rules, which essentially they seek to put our self-employed onto PAYE and make them answerable to the government. We think it's nonsense. We want people to be free to make money themselves. And finally, implement this on a local level. We're definitely going to be putting Torbay first. And I would be the first to get out there and encourage this, because our local businesses are the biggest employers in this country. The second biggest employer is the NHS, but the biggest employers are local, are small and medium-sized businesses, and they've been under attack now for 25 years with over-regulation, increasing taxes. You know, there was once a time when people in this country, or the French referred to people in this country as we were a nation of shopkeepers. We all had our own little business. I'd like to see that again. It gives us independence. Right, housing. Social housing. Social housing currently, a lot of it goes to people who don't actually live in the area that they're receiving it. You know, you go onto lists and you get moved around. We just want to make sure that people who are on the list for social housing receive it in their locality, and we want to make sure that those local people get it first. We can see perhaps some of the rough sleeping around Torbay would be resolved by some of this. We want to develop brownfield sites first. So one of the big problems in this country is how long it takes to push through planning. And we want to make sure that those sites that are already identified as developable, not such a good word, that they're pushed through very quickly. That means places that might be office space that can be readily converted to accommodation is done so that there's not a hold up in planning. And then we want to make sure that developers put in the infrastructure that we need. So there's lots of big estates here in Devon that have been put in over the last 10 years. They put in fantastic new houses, no one's arguing with the houses, but where are the doctors' surgeries, where are the schools, where are the roads and the road works, and it's just terrible. So we need to make sure that when these developments are signed up for, when the contracts are signed at the beginning, that they're committing to introduce that infrastructure, and at the beginning, not at the end, please. And then finally here, end the war on British drivers. We're going to ban ULEZ, get rid of low traffic neighbourhoods, protect your right to petrol and diesel cars. All of this is common sense. Everything I've spoken to here is common sense. We shouldn't even need to be talking about it. And then the bottom one is something that probably should have been done, well, maybe it existed 40 years ago, I don't know, but a national database for roadworks. So any council or regional agency or national agency who's doing roadworks, there's a central place where they can know where it is, so that you know, the water and the electricity and everyone can make sure, and we can, when they dig up a road, everything's done at once. Now, that they manage it in several other countries in the world, why don't they manage it here? So that's the final one there. Maybe I'll stop for a little bit. Maybe there's a couple of questions. Maybe someone wants a drink. No? Okay. No questions then?
Yeah, I've got a question.
Yeah.
How will you stop the boats?
Well, it's as far as I'm concerned, it's quite easy. You know, you just take them back. You know, they land, you take them back. They're in the channel, you take them back.
Okay.
In fact, you know, when you're at sea, you return them to the port from which they left. There's nothing against that. Absolutely nothing against that. The only way they come here is because they're letting them. You know, one thing that was obvious to me, my wife is from Central America, my family's from Central America, and during a Trump presidency, all of the Central Americans who were taken at the border, Mexico to the United States, they were given a choice. Right, you come into this country, you commit to this country, you sign up for this country, and we will settle you, or you go home. And that's it. There was just no two ways about it. We just need to do that same thing. The people who turn up on our border here, they are not asylum seekers, as the left would like you to. If they want to apply for asylum to the UK, they can do that from wherever they want in the world. International treaties, right, I want to go to the UK, I want to claim asylum in the UK. They'll get put in a pot, and they probably won't get the UK, they might get somewhere else. But
there's existing maritime law that allows us to take it back to France as it is. It's just the
yeah,
government are deliberately avoiding that.
exactly.
I'm glad you said that. I didn't know.
What are you going to do about dealing with the French, who are absolutely blatantly, we're paying millions of pounds
Yeah.
to stop these boats? And how do we get 500 people a day leave the beaches in France and arrive here? What are you going to do to the French? What are you going to do to the European Union to say this is not acceptable?
Well, you need to stop giving them money, for starters, and then just return them. As Mark said, there's nothing in international law. Well, the law is that we return them. We just pick them up mid-channel and return them to where they could. Why are we bringing them here?
And it will stop them coming.
And it'll stop, yeah. And there is a humanitarian aspect to this that no one really goes into. So we have all these lefties saying, oh, you know, it's horrible, you don't look after them, this, that and the other, they're human rights. Nonsense. Most of these people come from North Africa or the Middle East. Do you know how far they've travelled? And how much they have paid someone for safe passage to get here? They paid them thousands of pounds. And so many of these people don't get here. Where do they end up? You know, what kind of criminality do they fall into? Or the criminals who have been trafficking them been up to? The best thing that we can do is to stop them coming, because we stop the movement of people, and the movement of people is where all the criminality is. So aside from our left-wingers saying, oh, you know, we need to look after these people, the best thing we could do is ensure that that doesn't happen. And if they want to come here, they apply through the normal means.
When we send them back, can we give them brooms?
Sorry?
When we send them back, can we give them brooms?
Oh, right. Yeah, I think maybe we have a 5-minute break, and we'll return and I'll explain how we're going to do it, because, yes?
Just quickly.
Sure.
Torbay.
Yes.
Torbay. I've been here 67 years in Torbay.
Yes.
There's a lot of changes, probably a lot of homes. There's three things that have come up recently. The crime commissioner.
Yes.
Do we need to pay for a crime commissioner?
No, and in our contract, we've said that we're going to review that, and we actually want to get rid of it, yes.
The other point is, war on drivers,
Yes.
Conservative Council, Torbay Road,
Yeah.
spent 100 and something thousand quid on putting that in.
Yeah.
And they're putting it back to two-way. So
Yeah.
you're looking into something like that, are you?
Yeah.
The other thing is, quickly, talking to taxi drivers and seeing the crime at the top of the town.
Yeah.
Leonard Stock Centres. Why is it there?
I agree. Yeah.
I've worked with vulnerable people all my life. But it's crime-ridden. It's just
Yeah.
an invitation.
There's got to be an alternative solution to that, definitely. Okay.
I tell you what, we'll be back in 5 minutes. Let's give Gordon a chance to have a drink. Thank you. The bar's open if you fancy a quick drink, quick refresh. Lots more interesting stuff coming up in part 2. Also, you get to meet the man, okay? So we need more questions and answers. So spend the next 5 or 10 minutes to have a little think about some awkward questions for him. It's all part of the training, isn't it? Smiling now, right? Gordon, deep breath, relax.
Yeah.
I've never met a man who loves Torbay more than I do.
Thank you, Adrian. I didn't skip her a super yacht. I almost did. I was probably months away from being offered the opportunity to, but having seen how super yacht skippers turn out, I decided not to, because I didn't know one who had been divorced less than 3 times. And if you're a super yacht skipper, you marry the boat, and you're there 11 months of the year, and there's no opportunity for family. So it was the opportunity to leave super yachting. But sailing has been a big part of my life from a young child. I grew up in Cornwall, in Falmouth, and I used to go sailing as a child, and I graduated to teaching dinghy sailing through school holidays and the like. When I left school, I sort of gave sailing a little bit of a rest, and I went to university. I studied history. And hopefully the next part of my talk, you'll learn a little bit of that history. But it was actually medieval history that I specialised in, Constitution, Magna Carta, things like this, which are really important things to understand the nation of the United Kingdom. From there, I went to the City of London. My granddad said, well, go and do something with your history degree. Go and be an accountant. Okay. So I went down to London and I got a job at an accountancy firm. And I was there for a little over 12 months, 14 months. I did pass 3 exams and failed 1, and decided that I didn't like that. I remember being brought into the office and saying, we're happy to pay for you to retake your exam, you know, you're a good worker, all that sort of stuff, or we'll give you mutual termination. And I said, well, I'll take that one, please. So the next thing I did was return to the sailing. And I went down to Southampton and I took a Yacht Master examination. And during that, the proprietor of that sailing school said to me, he's like, well, you know what you're doing. Do you mind coming back next week and doing the cruising instructor course? So I did that, and my life just took a completely different direction. It went off in a way that I never intended it to be, but it was where I was being led. It was what I was meant to be doing. I wasn't meant to be sitting at a desk in London. I didn't particularly like central London. And that job took me through teaching Northern Europe and into the Caribbean, delivering yachts, and eventually, a few years later, I ended up being called up by a friend of a friend in the sailing industry who said, oh, someone's hurt themselves on this super yacht, can you come and help out? And so I was moved onto a super yacht, and I was on that yacht for 3.5 years. I joined it in Jamaica, and I left it in the Turks and Caicos. So pretty much did everywhere in the Caribbean and the east coast of the United States. It's where I met my wife, and where I decided that I was going to return again. Once you've been on these super yachts for some time and you've rubbed shoulders with very wealthy people and the like, there's only so much that you can take of it. You need to move away. And having met my wife, I decided, right, this is the lady I want to spend the rest of my life with, and I want to have a family with. Let's come back to the UK. Which was a lot easier said than done, because bringing a lovely Honduran lady to the UK, I got to see the inner workings of the immigration system. And we talked earlier about taking control of our borders. Well, the only thing that I can see that the immigration is set up to do is screw us out of money. It was tens of thousands of pounds to marry the woman that I loved. And that can't be right. And it got me thinking about several other things to do with the immigration system. Okay, maybe this is why there is so much illegal immigration. If it's costing tens of thousands of pounds and you have to go through all this bureaucracy to get there, then do you then start to understand why people are trying to get around it? But yeah, it was a pure money-making scheme. But we achieved it, and I went and I studied whilst we were achieving it, and I trained to be an investment manager. I got a CFA qualification, level 1 qualification, and I became a CF30 investment advisor, which is what I am now, and it's what I've been now for 7 years. I got my job in Exeter, and I've been at the same company since then. Politically, I've always been alert to what goes on in the world. I was a massive Brexiteer. Brexit happened a year after I came back to the UK, or sort of in the same period, and I started seeing what had gone wrong, and it made me mad. I mean, angry. I'm not afraid to say that. And I got to the point, probably, I used to drive to work from Newton Abbot with my boss, who also lived in the same place, and we had to switch off Radio 4. You know, I would physically wanted to attack the radio. But Brexit aside, then we had COVID, and that irritated me as well, because, you know, the control that the government took from us and used COVID to take from us was nonsense. It can't do what it did. I don't need to go into disease, virus, epidemiology to know that a government cannot do what it did during that period. And there was a very dark period a couple of years ago, and I'm sure you were all in it, where the authoritarianism of our government had got to a completely unbearable point. And I was like, right, we need to do something about this. And that's when I put my name in the hat to try and fight for this, because we need to set it back. And once I started on that journey, doors have opened, my eyes have been opened to several things, and you know, we've got a developing campaign here that's gonna take it back, because there's a groundswell in this country who have seen exactly what I've seen. They know what's wrong. They know that the people at the top are refusing to fix it. They know it's not. They're refusing to fix it. That's nonsense here. Anyhow, that's enough about me. I hope that you've. How do we do it? We've heard what we're going to do. We've heard why. But as I said at the beginning, lots of people are demoralised. Lots of people don't think that we can do this. But there is a way to do it. Okay. Now, we need to return our rights and liberties. We need to restore our freedoms, and we need to re-establish our society. It's a complete reformation. Excuse the pun. Now, reform has 8 principles, and the first one is that we are the masters and the state is the servant. We need to restore the balance. Right now, the state has elevated itself to a level above the people. Well, that's not where it should be. We are equal. And in fact, they're our servants. And we need to bring the law back to the people. I'll explain a little bit of that in a minute. So, these are the tools that our technocratic state has used to take our freedoms away from us. Now, the first one, you might not think, oh, why that? A little bit of history. So we have rights in this country, and they're rights that we were born with. No one ever had to write them down. They've been written down occasionally in history. Maybe you go back to the Charter of Liberties, 1100, or Magna Carta, or you go back to the Bill of Rights, or the Petition of Right. Every now and again, we get a look into them. Universal Declaration of Human Rights after the Second World War. These are all great things. They write down our rights. You know, we have a right to a private life, private property rights. But the Human Rights Act is an utter disgrace. And I'll show you why in a minute. It takes all those rights, it writes them down, and they're fine. But then it caveats them. Constitutional Reform Act. I don't know if anyone reads the Telegraph, but Liz Truss wrote about it yesterday. I thought it was a fantastic piece. It was the act that brought in the Supreme Court. Our laws are ours. It says it in several of our old documents. It says it in the Act of Settlement. It alludes to it in the Bill of Rights. It's there in the Coronation Oath Act. The laws are ours. Coronation Oath Act, Charles, he governs us by our laws. The Constitutional Reform Act is an act that makes the executive put in the Supreme Court that then controls the laws. Well, then they're not our laws anymore. And that happened in 2005. And you can chart the history ever since. They legislate and then enforce, legislate and enforce. It's authoritarian government. It's tyrannical. And it's been there now for the best part of 20 years. Now, the Terrorism Act, slightly different. This is Big Brother. I'll I'll go into a little bit more detail further down, and the Equalities Act, another aberration. So, I said I'd explain the Human Rights Act. You're not going to be able to read this, but I will read it out to you. I've underlined a few bits. Now, we have all our rights written down in the Human Rights Act, and it's great. And then part 2 comes along and goes, every natural or legal person is entitled to the peaceful enjoyment of his possessions. No one shall be deprived of his possessions except in the public interest and subject to the conditions provided by the law and by the general principles of international law. Well, I'm sorry, a right is not a right if they can take it away. The preceding provision shall not, however, in any way impair the right of a state to enforce such laws as it deems necessary to control the use of property in accordance with the general interest or to secure the payment of taxes or other contributions or penalties. Well, that's tyranny written into our Human Rights Act. And it's been there, 1998, it's wrong. It's been there since 1998. It's socialism, pure socialism. Putting your rights up against the public interest is what socialism is. We need to get rid of that. We need to amend the Human Rights Act and we need to repeal that. Once we do that, then the government can't do what it does. It cannot write legislation that binds you. Pretty simple. This is what it should be. William Blackstone wrote on our common law in the 17th, 18th century. The public good is in nothing more essentially interested than the protection of every individual's private rights. And that is the beauty of being British. And that is our history. And that is what we gave the world. And Tony Blair in 1998 took it away. And it needs to be restored. And it's very simple to do. You just need a majority in Parliament to do it. But the fact is, even without that, we should be able to assert our laws through the court, through common law, because the law is ours. It's not the government. I think I've already explained this, but feel free to look at the newspaper from yesterday and read Liz Truss's article. I'm amazed that suddenly we've got a parliamentarian talking about it, because they just generally don't talk about things like that. Maybe they're coming to the same conclusions that I've been at for quite some time. Right, there's the law is ours, the Act of Settlement. The laws of England are the birthright of the people. We're born with them, okay? They are ours. They can't be taken away. I should have put in the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights says nothing can be done to the prejudice of the people. But I guess it's all the same thing. It also says in the Bill of Rights that what Parliament is for. Parliament is for the redress of grievances. So that's us taking our redress to the government. But it's also for the amending, strengthening and preserving of law. That's what it's for. It doesn't elaborate on that, but it doesn't say that Parliament can make law, does it? The law is ours. Those laws are our normal laws. So it's do to others as you would have done to yourself. From that, as we break it down, we get laws on murder, we get laws on theft. And a lot of laws are in our statute book, like Crimes Against the Person Act. That's common law, that's still our law. All Parliament's done is strengthened it by saying, right, you know, we've had these cases over the years, you know, we need to just further define this. That's still law, that's what Parliament's there for, that's great. But what Parliament are now doing is they're creating things out of nothing. Has no relationship to our common law whatsoever. The law. So I've spoken about the common law. The top of the common law is do to others what you would have them do to you. And that's how we should live in this country. And then there's equity law. I won't go into too much details, but we're all equals. Okay? And when the two come into conflict, we're all equals, comes to the top. The Terrorism Act, we repeal or amend the Terrorism Act, we get rid of Big Brother and numerous other state-acquired laws that they use to, snoop on us, and they apply this to powers that our local councils have. We need to get rid of it, and it was all on the back of a Terrorism Act in the United States is why we got this. But as everyone knows, we experienced terrorism in this country for decades before that. We didn't need this. And the Equalities Act. So we talked about equity law, everyone equal before the law. Well, the Equalities Act is divisive legislation which completely undermines that principle because it elevates minorities above the majority. We are all equal. We need to get rid of it. These are easily discoverable things in a court of law. We don't need government coming in and saying, in that court of law, this person needs to be elevated above this person, because that's not right. We need to get rid of that, and certainly amend several parts of it. And Reform has that, it's on our contract. Once we do that, we're in a position of strength, because we've reasserted our position versus the government. And we come to some very important pieces of legislation, the coronation oath. Last year, Charles took the coronation oath again, and he swore an oath to serve us. And when he serves an oath to serve us, His Majesty's government, which includes everything underneath it, has sworn an oath to serve us. They must serve us. It's a contract. They have broken their contract. And they have nowhere to hide. They can't continue doing what they're doing. Then they have a duty to us under that law. They have a duty to us. So when your civil servant doesn't do what he's told to do, you say, well, you have a duty under the law to do what's in the best interest of the people, not what's in the best interest of your paymasters, whoever they may be, who are setting your agenda. So people say you can't get rid of the civil servants, there's going to be employment problems, this, that and the other. Well, if you take the law and you've reasserted the law, then you should be able to deal with that relatively quickly. This is something that I dream about. It's a rollback of the state. Massive mental health benefits. Has anyone actually thought about this? The reason why there's so many mental health problems in this country? It's never thought that, the state sitting on your shoulder when you go out, you're worried about the speed camera, you can't do this, I can't park there. You live on this narrow little road, little pathway. It's nerve-wracking, it's nervous. I worry about it all the time. When's my next parking ticket going to come? It's nonsense. They are in there, the only safe place is in your home. They tried to enter that during COVID. All this mental health problem, it will go away. It will alleviate, because people will start going, all right, all I need to do is be friendly to my neighbour and get on with my life, and no one's going to interfere. But we need to take personal responsibility to do that. We need to understand, in a common law society, our duty to our fellow man. So we need to bring that back to people. People need to understand that they need to do to others as they wanted to be done to themselves. Now, I have written down here a little excerpt from A.J.P. Taylor. I don't know if anyone knows who A.J.P. Taylor is, but he's an historian, and he wrote in the Oxford History of England. So until 1914, a sensible, law-abiding Englishman could pass through life and hardly notice the existence of the state, beyond the post office and maybe a policeman. He could travel abroad or leave his country forever without a passport or any sort of official permission. He could exchange his money without restriction or limit. He could buy goods from any country in the world on the same terms as he bought his goods at home. For that matter, a foreigner could spend his life in the country without permit and without informing the police. All this was changed by the impact of the Great War. The state established a hold over its citizens, which, though relaxed in peacetime, was never to be removed, and which the Second World War was again to increase. The history of the English people and the English state merged for the first time. Just think about that. First World War, Second World War, terrorism, conflicts in Afghanistan, net zero even. These things are used and have been used, terrible things that they are, to increase the state. At every point, they increase the level of state impact in our lives. And at each time, it just gets worse and worse. We've been at this, as A.J.P. Taylor said, this has been going for over 100 years. Our freedoms have been eroded over the course of 100 years. It's not just 20 years. It's not just when Tony Blair came in and put in his Human Rights Act and said, right, we're going to take away your freedom when we think you're under threat, which pretty much confirms what A.J.P. Taylor was saying here, doesn't it? And it kind of encourages those sort of crises to be put out in the media, hence why we get all kinds of horribleness coming through the media day in, day out. So, a beautiful future. What I've just described, that increase of the states periodically over the last 100 years, that is the enemy. That's what we need to get rid of. We enforce it with the law. We remind them of their duties over the law, and we can come back to a position of freedom. And that's what Reform's here to do. We cannot implement all of those things that I spent a good half an hour, I think, talking about in the first part, unless we do this. We have to do this. In history is cyclical. This happens, it might happen every 100 years, might happen every 200-300 years. The Bill of Rights was signed when we brought these people back and said, look, this is the position that we live in. You are our king, but you're equal to us and you must serve us. You sign your coronation oath, and these are our rights. The petition of right, which was only a few years earlier, and you've got Magna Carta. No man can be destroyed without due process, which is presentment in front of justice, judgment by his peers, or due process of law. Anyhow, so hopefully you've understood some of that. I would really like to take some questions on it if you have some. Yes?
The House of Lords.
So, the House of Lords is something that's on our agenda to have a look at. So, it does in a way, but if you redress all of this, you could have an effective House of Lords. So I wouldn't rule it out. An elected second chamber would be preferable.
Yeah, if they were elected, but they're non-elected, so it's a
Well, the nonsense where the...
5%.
Yeah.
And we are not able to do re-elections anyway.
Exactly. The situation where we have where the Prime Minister can appoint who he wants is nonsense. So yes, it does need to be reformed totally. But we do need law lords, and we probably still need representatives from proper representatives from different fields of life. So that means that a US Senate could be great, but you'd lose something. So there needs to be something else to it. Anyhow, it's something that it's on our agenda. The situation we have at the moment is awful. Certainly need to get rid of that.
They're going to underpin you all the time.
Yeah.
Change.
But we do need a second chamber of sorts.
Will not be elected.
Yes, well that's like the US Senate, but we also need to make sure that if we don't have the Supreme Court, we need the Law Lords in there, we need a Lord Chancellor and that set up. Camilla.
Yeah, my mental health is being affected every day by knowing that thousands of illegal immigrants coming into our country, across the water, and in other ways. Rwanda has proved to be such a joke. It's a red herring. It's an embarrassment around the world. We must be absolutely pathetic to other countries. We have all these illegal immigrants in hotels. They're now going into private landlord accommodation. So they're trying to get them out of hotels. They're going into disused RAF bases. What is reform going to do? How are they going to get those people out of the hotels, out of these disused places? How are they going to get them out of our country, back to where they...
Well, yeah, certainly. Well, first of all, we've got information on all of these people. We've got information on all of these people. If they're claiming asylum, we need to establish whether the country that they've come from is truly in the state that they say it is. And if it's not, they should be returned to their country. There's no other reason for it. They've got to be taken back.
I mean, the Home Office, because the Home Office is a shambles, are you going to keep the Home Office structure as it is to be able to deal with, will that be reformed? Because as it stands, the Home Office is just...
So the point is that the blob, which is the Home Office, and they need to be answerable to the politicians who are telling them what to do. They can't go, we're doing our own thing. Because, as I said at the beginning, the politicians are now just salesmen for what the Home Office are pushing. But what we need is politicians who go, this is what we're doing, and reading the rights.
How come these migrants are let in and they've got no idea?
They've got
no idea whatsoever. And we still just let them in the country.
It's just changing the personnel and enforcing what we say we're going to do. I mean, the problem that we have is the media tells you that the government can't get rid of them, and then therefore you believe that the government can't get rid of them, and that any other government that comes in is not going to be able to get rid of them. Well, that's nonsense. Neither Labour, Liberal Democrat or Conservative are concerned with taking those people back.
We couldn't go to another country without ID.
No.
And it's just pathetic that they just
Exactly.
escorted in actually and put on a coach.
Exactly. Yes.
Do you think that the immigration policy that you are proposing
Yes.
is probably going to be the biggest effective thing for your party?
Yes.
Well, I mean, certainly vote winner, but I think in government it's less.
You think reform,
Yeah.
one thing we've got to do, we've got to get control
Of our borders.
and our borders.
Yeah.
And at the moment, there is nobody doing that at all. And I bet you 9 out of 10 people who live in the UK want something seriously done about it. So you have a huge job.
Yeah.
And a very different one.
Yeah.
We've all got our jobs, we've all got to tell everybody to vote for Gordon. Before I vote for reform, I'm not going to send back to Scotland now.
Well, my dad's not going back. Definitely not. Definitely. Right. Sorry.
I talk to people who've never heard of you.
Okay.
How are you going to become more visible in Torbay? You
Okay.
need to be more visible.
That's the next part. So we're going to get on to that.
Can I just ask you something?
Yeah.
If you pull out of the European immigration agreement that you have, you can immediately, legally start sending these people back to the last free country they came from.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's as simple as that.
We're removing ourselves from all of these treaties. The Windsor Framework basically opens the jaws a bit to diverge slightly from what the European Union had us in the first place. But it's nonsense. We haven't left. We're still doing exactly the same thing. We can't make our own decisions.
They helped write that.
Yeah.
Whole thing. And all you have to do, there's no penalties, there's nothing wrong, you can just say, we're right.
Exactly.
And the next day, you can start sending them back.
Exactly.
All the money was spent on this. My daughter's at an age.
Yes.
You can never get one of the houses.
Yes.
What can you do for the young people to get full houses?
So we talked about it earlier. We need to fast track the building of new houses because supply is a big issue. Immigration's going to, sorting out immigration hopefully will sort out a lot of that because a lot of supply will come back from the people who are being housed. Well, if you, and this isn't, so if supply is going up of housing because people are being taken out and more's coming on, then the price of housing comes down. And also if you increase the supply of housing by building more houses, again, more supply, the cost of housing should come down.
Building all these houses, I built when I was expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if they said they're going to put a school in,
No.
No.
then sewage,
Yeah.
Yeah.
building housing, infrastructure can't cope with it.
Well, that's why we're going to make developers put in the infrastructure. So when they sign their contract to develop new brownfield sites and the like, they have to do the infrastructure as well.
Bringing people from up country.
Yeah,
a lot of people who moved in from town.
Exactly, which is why we want to make sure that the new housing is for local people. Yes.
What's the policy on getting them to refuse to go to work and back into work?
Okay, so
Gordon, some people would have heard what the question was.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the question was how are we going to get people long-term unemployed back into work? So this is a tax issue, and we're gonna dangle a big present in front of people and take the threshold for paying basic rate income tax to £20,000, which will take a huge number of people out of paying tax, and it will make work pay, and it will help. Well, this is slightly more nuanced. So you can't force anyone to do anything, but you would hope that someone's mate starts going to work, starts earning money, starts progressing in the world. Remember that 20 grand is affecting everyone up to 70 grand. They've got more money in their pocket. They're going to see their mates starting to earn, and they're going to be encouraged to get up as well. It might be a slow process, and I'm sure there's other policies that we can have that will help them there as well. But that's our main one. Yeah. Yes.
yes.
Just a word on the Lords. David Cameron was given he became a Lord.
Yes.
Yes.
What's your angle on it? He's not even answerable to the Commons.
No. It's something that's happened for a long time. The main issue is putting political peers in. So this idea that you have a life in the House of Commons and then you go up into the Lords and you fill the Lords with all your pals in politics contributes totally to this groupthink issue where they live in this bubble and nothing ever changes. We need to ensure that the people who get put in the Lords come from different parts of life and that there's an elected part of it. And then I don't think there's any problem, if done correctly, that if there's someone in the Lords who has a specialty that he can bring to the thing. He can be a minister. I don't think that that should be an issue at all. But yeah, bringing David Cameron, who's quite clearly political, in, that's a nonsense. Yeah. Dave.
Just where the House of Lords is concerned, obviously it's critical to the power sharing arrangement, tripartite system that we're supposed to have in the constitutional monarchy.
Yeah.
And I just stress caution with this because there is a thread going back to the EU and the abuse of the arbitrary power that he exercised. So there was a challenge in the House of Lords to the monarch where they petitioned that their right, and there's all of your rights to petition the monarch, against the abuse of that arbitrary power. They demanded a remedy and it to be, heard.
Yeah.
Right. Subsequent to that, when Blair came in, I'm sure you all definitely need to be reminded, what did he do? He stripped out the hereditary peers. Among those hereditary peers were the ones that formed that Barron's Committee that challenged the abuse of that arbitrary power.
Yeah.
So just where, okay, the abuse of the Lords has already taken place. So anything that we think about doing subsequent has got to be, we've got to be very careful. We've already got enough trouble in the House of Commons. There is trouble in the House of Lords, and the Crown part is obviously this is where the whole thing has gone wrong. It's the abuse of this arbitrary power, where they're doing things like all these other treaties. So please just bear in mind where you are with that. And speaking as someone that's lobbied heavily in the House of Commons and the House of Lords, I've had far more sense and productivity out of the House of Lords than the Commons.
Yeah.
Yes, it does need to be addressed, but going any further with the problem that we've already got doesn't solve the substantive issues that we've got where we wanted to take back control of our laws, orders, customs and money and so on.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, Dave. And that's fully why I'm not all for abolishing it, because there needs to be a check on the Commons. Has to be a check on the Commons, and again, we need to be able to hold the King as well. Anyhow, I think we should move on. It is key that everyone here today goes out and they tell their friends that they've gone and seen a Reform Party candidate, representative, and say, right, we've got to vote for this person. So I would love for everyone here to go away and tell 10 people and say, look, Gordon's a good guy. Well, I hope you think I'm a good guy. We need to get behind him. We need to help him out. I've got some, there's some stuff over there with my little family. There's some leaflets that you can take away. There's for sale over there. There are window stickers for your cars for £3. We brought them down in price because I got a big batch of them this time. You must follow the social media and share and like, and where we can get as many people following as possible. That's great. If you can, volunteer. I'd love to get as many people as possible to volunteer. That can be minimal or a little bit more. And there's lots that we need to pay for. So more marketing materials, the development of our new leaflets, the hiring of venues and the like going forward. So it would be fantastic to have some contributions to help with that. And right, we'll just nip on.
Get a car sticker as well.
Get a car sticker, is it? Exactly. I'd like to push this forward. So how many people in here are Reform members? Members of Reform? That's quite good. I like that. Well, if you're not, I really encourage you to become a member. That helps us. It gets you on our mailing list. It really helps the party. So if you can, my lovely big QR codes. Well, no one likes my big QR codes. Anyhow, visit the website. It's there.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
There's something called, what is it, the Beach Hut?
Yes. The magazine.
Foster advertises on there. He
Yes.
does surgeries. Could you not do something like that?
I would like to do the surgeries thing. I'm trying to break down barriers with the Beach Hut, but it's yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll get there. at some point they've got to take notice of us. These are the social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. On our website, on the Reform Party website, you can volunteer. Now this can be very simple. On that volunteer page, you've got tick boxes, anything from giving your time handing leaflets, but also you can just tick a box and say, I want a a poster at the election just to put in my window. So there's not really anything to that, and it'd be really nice if everyone could go away and sign up for that. It'd be really good. And then this is my local WhatsApp group. Using that, you'll be able to join the WhatsApp group. So hopefully I'll get lots of pings and people will join the WhatsApp group. That's so that we can communicate with each other, we can organise leafleting and organise events, help and the like going forwards. Hopefully share a few things along the way as well. And over time maybe we have a weekly meeting running into an election and we can put our heads together and really direct people. And then finally, donations. Again, a nice big QR code. So right now, our big political parties, they're funded by big donors with deep pockets, and they have way more than we do. And it shows, because those big people with the big pockets, they run this place. You know, they're the people who are pulling the strings. Now, if we truly want to have a revolution, but if we truly want this to work and for the people to get a government they want, the people need to contribute. The people need to get behind those of us who are out there every day. So little and often, what you have spare, it would be fantastic to get some donations to the campaign, and we can put them to good use and spread the word. So I think I'll leave you with that. I think that's the end of the slideshow. And I'll hand you back to Adrian.
Thank you, Gordon. Have you enjoyed tonight? Been insightful? What's really, really important is most of all that you go and tell your friends. Because that is what's important, because our little acorns become big oak trees.
Yes.
And that's what we want. He's a great guy, isn't he? Really nice. It's nice to hear some integrity. There's some great ideas. There's things that we can all resonate with. It might not be everything, but there's things that we can all see going forward. I'm excited. Yeah. I'll give you an example. I paid for the room hire tonight myself. I paid for the flyers. I got behind this. This is me. I made the difference. I made this happen tonight. If we all do something like I've done tonight, then how great will it be? And we can all stand there in October or November when the general election takes place, and we can all take a little bit of pride in what we've achieved. I would love to see Gordon be our MP for Torbay. Well, I love Torbay. I love Torbay, and that's why I'm stood here tonight. And I think you guys all love Torbay as well, and that's why you're sat here tonight, because you want a brighter future. Thank you very much. Hopefully, maybe in the not too distant future, we can announce something a bit bigger. I mean, this has been lovely tonight, but we might try and achieve something a little bit bigger.
Yeah,
put Gordon on the big stage and give him a bit of pressure. Yeah, but thank you very much. For those people that have come up with questions tonight, it's been really great. It's been nice to hear the interaction between everyone. I really think that's been very good, and it's all character building stuff, and it's all stuff that Gordon takes away with him, and as I think about it, and it also grows as a person. We all grow as we get older, and it's wonderful to see you here tonight. Thank you very much. Good night.
Cheers, mate.
That's
Really good.
all right with it.
Yeah. Really good, really good.
Yeah, that's good.
I think I'll leave that up there for a bit. I think I'll leave that up there.
When someone asks you a question in the audience, you got to repeat the question. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then go back. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't think about it.
I'm not used to it.
No, I didn't think about it.